Imagine this. You wake up one morning and your father is dead. Not from illness, not from old age, from a missile strike. Before you can even breathe, the entire world is watching you, waiting to see if you will stand up or collapse. This is not a movie. This happened a couple of days ago. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched simultaneous airstrikes on Iran. In the very first strike, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed. So was his wife, his daughter, and his daughter-in-law. The man who had held absolute power over a nation of 90 million people for 37 years was gone overnight. And somewhere in the chaos, his son Mojtaba Khamenei was alive, and the clock had already started ticking. Here is what nobody tells you about leadership. The hardest kind, and is the kind you never asked for. For years, Mojtaba Khamenei operated exclusively behind the scenes. He never ran for office. He never gave public speeches. Many Iranians had never even heard his voice. He was described in leaked diplomatic cables as the power behind the robes. A shadow, an architect who preferred darkness to spotlights. But now, he had been charged with leading the Islamic Republic through the biggest crisis in its 47-year history. And here is the leadership lesson hiding inside this moment. The position finds you. You do not always find the position. Think about the moments in your own life when crisis forced you into a role you were not sure you were ready for. A parent dies. You become the head of the family. A business partner walks away. You become the sole decision maker. A manager quits. Everyone looks at you. Nobody asks if you are ready. The question is never, are you ready? The question is always, what will you do now that it is yours? Now here is where it gets even more intense. The Assembly of Experts, the clerical body responsible for selecting Iran's supreme leader, met mostly online, under enormous pressure from the Revolutionary Guard to make a decision fast. American and Israeli bombs struck their office in calm after the votes had been cast, but before the count was completed. The leaders who change history are not the ones who waited for the perfect moment. They are the ones who understood that in moments of crisis, constitutional order adapts to necessity. And necessity does not wait for perfection. History does not pause for your anxiety. You decide now, or someone else decides for you. Now let us talk about the most uncomfortable part of this story. Because this is the part that will hit closest to home. Mojtaba Khamenei lacks the religious credentials his father had when he led a clerical regime that claims to represent God's will on earth. His critics said he was not qualified enough, not senior enough in rank, not legitimate enough. Significant disagreements broke out over his appointment, with some rejecting his leadership due to his lack of religious standing. Sound familiar? Have you ever stepped into a room and felt like you did not belong there? Have you ever been given an opportunity and had a voice inside your head or outside of it say, "Who do you think you are?" This is the third leadership lesson. Credentials do not create leaders. Crises do. When Ayatollah Khomeini died in 1989, no obvious successor possessed comparable clerical stature. The Constitution was revised to accommodate the decision made under necessity. Legitimacy rested not on religious authority alone, but on institutional alignment and the willingness to step forward. You do not need every qualification on paper. You need the willingness to carry the weight when the weight needs carrying. The world is full of highly qualified people sitting on the sidelines, and full of ordinary people who simply decided to show up. Here is the final lesson, and it may be the most powerful one. Now, I am not here to make a political argument. I am here to point out what defiance under pressure looks like from a pure leadership and psychology standpoint. Rami Khouri, a public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut, described the appointment as an act of defiance. Iran was telling the world, "You wanted to destroy our system. Here is our system, still standing." The big win is rarely won by the loudest person in the room. It is won by the person who refuses to leave the room. 4 lessons from a war that the world is watching. 1. The position finds you. Be ready before you think you need to be. 2. Decisions made under pressure are still decisions. Make them. 3. You do not need every credential. You need the courage to step forward. 4. Defiance, when rooted in purpose, is one of the most powerful forces on earth. The world is always in some kind of war. The question is, what are you fighting for? And are you ready to lead when the moment arrives? Because it will arrive, and when it does, nobody will ask if you are ready. They will only ask one question: what did you do?